So I'd love to just get started and dive right in and see how the data space has evolved since you got started and founded DiscoverOrg back in 2007.
Yeah, so I founded DiscoverOrg in 2007, but I've actually been in this space since 2002 when I worked for a similar company called iProfile. And I think one of the most interesting things about that time, and I'll tell you kind of what iProfile did and how the world changed when we made like this little discovery. But what iProfile had been doing was really gathering up a bunch of research on what a company was doing inside of their internal IT departments. And we gathered it by literally going to a library and pulling off the microfiche. I don't know if anybody knows what microfiche is anymore, but it was basically like a reel of like magazines and newspapers that was
Yeah.
archived in a way that you could read it. And we'd pull these articles and we'd pull every article written about Ford's IT department together. And then we put it in a PDF, and we did this across the Fortune 1000, basically the Fortune 100, then the Fortune 500, then the Fortune 1000. We batched them together, and then we sold these reports to companies. We'd say, hey, you're a technology company selling into the IT departments of Fortune 1000 companies. Here's 1,000 in-depth reports that tell you what's going on in those companies. And people loved those. And then one day we were having a conversation with the vice president of sales at one of these companies. And he goes, look, these reports are great. They're super valuable. I totally understand what's going on at the company. But you know what? At the end of the day, I got to do something with this.
Right.
And this doesn't help me at all when it comes to making a sale, understanding who buys products and services at the company, understanding what the organizational chart looks like. I have no visibility at all into that. And I don't
Yeah.
have a way to contact them. So how are you going to help me with that? And so this is 2002, and there is no LinkedIn. There is no Facebook. There is no Zoominfo. There is no way to actually know who the decision makers inside of a company are. You just
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
And so the biggest value, the most valuable thing companies had were these super expensive sales reps who were going around the country, building their network, taking people out to expensive ball games and dinners, and they had all the right country club memberships to build their network of professionals who worked at companies. And then they were leveraging that Rolodex to help big companies sell their products and services. And that's how they went to market, because you didn't know who was inside, GM's IT department. Nobody knew that. And so you had to build these relationships. And so when the idea of CRM came along, that
Yeah.
was such a powerful moment for companies, because they said, you know what? We can get that really valuable Rolodex that our sales reps own, and we can get it in our central CRM. So
Right.
when that guy leaves, at
Maintain it.
least I know what his relationships look like and who the people at those companies are. And so they rushed behind this CRM movement, and they just said, look, this is now a digital Rolodex. Put all your information in. That's where we want it. And sales rep put it in because it helped them kind of did like for themselves. It gave them a digital Rolodex, and companies had access to it. And then they didn't really do much else when it came to really modernizing and digitizing their go-to-market efforts. They had the data in CRM, and that was it. And you fast forward to the world now, where at iProfile, when we heard that comment from that VP of sales, we started collecting the contact information and the organizational charts of the people who worked at those companies, because we wanted to enable our customers to take that next
Unbelievable.
step with the data. And what we learned there was, not only did it empower the largest companies in the world, but it also really democratized the way sales happened. Because all of a sudden, you didn't really need to have these relationships and these big Rolodexes to go to market anymore. All of a sudden, the sales rep who was selling a product from Boise could easily compete with the sales rep selling IBM or Microsoft or Oracle, who was based in San Francisco or New York City, who had the best relationships and the biggest Rolodex.
Yeah.
And so what I really think has happened is data has really democratized the way companies can sell. You think about like the regional aspect of this as well. Like if you were based in Alabama, your customers were other companies in Alabama. Like
Right.
that was it. you didn't know, like in 2002, how many 200 employee companies there were in California or Arizona or Nevada or Washington. There's no way you could sell anything to those guys. And now all of a sudden, we talked about in our IPO, we have a company that makes tents for outdoor events, selling to hospitals out of Michigan, selling to hospitals in Texas and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Washington State. And so really this data has I don't want to say has globalized or nationalized your ability to sell across state lines, has made companies able to compete with companies that were much larger than them just by basis of having a level playing field when it came to data on their potential targets. And that's super powerful.
Yeah. No,
now, you know this, Jamie, in the process, we made a mess of our CRM systems, right? We just said yeah, put your stuff in, hurry, put it all in. We need all of that stuff in here. And then we didn't do anything about setting rules for that, normalizing the data, cleansing the data, enriching the data. People move from job to job. There's no system in CRM that has makes any effort to track that. You ask everybody who owns a CRM system or any senior VP of sales, hey, tell me true or false, people leave their jobs. True. What are you doing in your CRM system to keep track of that? Well, our sales reps do it. No, they don't.
No, they don't. Yeah. And how do they even know? Right.
Yeah. So it's super interesting. The world that we've come to now is we've got these CRM systems that have, 2 decades of data in it from everywhere, right? Not just sales reps. We also said marketing buys a list, put it in. Go to an event conference, scan a badge, put it in. Fill out a form on the website, put it in. And so now it's just all this mess of data and no one really knows how to clean it up and make it useful and actionable. And that's where we are right now. We pumped it into our CRM systems, our marketing automation systems. We've expected that these systems give us value in the future. And we have done nothing from a data hygiene perspective, from a cleanliness perspective, from an enrichment and completeness perspective to really be able to get the value out of those systems.